But later on, jangan record dek oi. Ini nak kena marah lagi sekali ni. No recording. No recording. Okay. And then it can also be on explain simple processes. So, later on in the years to come, it will not just be simple suggestion. It can be simple processes, narrate factual and imagine events and experiences, express and respond to opinion and common feelings such as happiness, sadness, surprise, and interest. Okay. Now, so once you know what can be tested, so you have to teach a language or vocabulary based on that 4.1.2, point 3, point 4. Okay. Now, let's look at the example given to us. I will also use other example after this, but this is what we are given to us. So we want to analyze what we have in part 1. So if you want to build item, there are 3 parts. The first part is called the background information. There's only one sentence, very short. Here you will get who's the audience. You get the name of the audience and some bit of information about the character. That's all, the person. And then the email. Look at the email. The email is very simple. Okay, it's very simple, very personal. You can use contraction, hi, because email to a friend. It's supposed to be very informal. And if I type this and put it under text inspector, you will see that the word level is less than B2 below, B2 and below. And then the last part is the instruction for the candidate, which is now write an email to your friend in about 80 words. Write your answer below. Okay. I will go over the 3 parts first before I go in great detail. All right. Question 2, part 2, is guided writing essay. So we will learn what does it mean by an essay. Okay, about 125 to 150 words. Now, again, look at the relevance of the curriculum. What can be tested. I'm not going to explain too much into that, but look at 4.1.5. The first time in the 2 papers, it talks about organize, sequence, and develop ideas within a text of several paragraphs. Okay, here is where you need to have paragraphing. So in the email has no paragraph. There's only one paragraph. So those who have followed Sir Asai from Kelantan, when he taught using digital classroom platform, he taught students to write the email in 3 paragraphs. Okay, it's not entirely wrong, but it's not necessary. Why make life for our weaker students stressful when they can just write 1 paragraph and still get the same mark? Okay. All right. Now, let's look at part 2. Sample task. Same. There will be 3 parts. First part is some background information. So the wording is something like this most of the time. Your class has been discussing how they spend their money and your teacher has asked you to write an essay about what you would spend your money on. And then there are 3 bullets. Okay, those are your content point. And the last part is the instruction. Now, what you should be aware of, the 3 bullet points should not overlap. So if you build item and somehow when you test your item, the 3 bullets overlap, then it's not good. They should never overlap. They should never overlap. Okay. All right. And look at the instruction. It's just like our old director writing. We still give some reminder. It says write your essay using all the notes and giving reasons for your point. Now, why is that being stressed? Because in the content point, you're supposed to give reasons. You are supposed to give reasons, not a reason, but reasons. So somehow now we have about 57 and my good friend pun dah masuk kot. Dr. Zuraini dah masuk. Okay. Selamat datang orang Kelantan.
Thank you.
Okay. All right. Now look at part 3. Okay. Part 3 is called an extended text. Okay. 200 to 250 words. Okay. Now some people will ask, so what if my student write less? What if my students write more in terms of length? In the mark scheme, it does not touch on length. Length is not a criterion of marking. So if you write more and it's all relevant, no problem. If you write less because you have good grasp of the vocabulary, you can explain yourself, in few words, it's still okay. You can still get the full mark. So don't be worried too much. I was surprised yesterday. One of the SIC Plus from Rembau, almost Maghrib time, she sent me 2 essays and asked for my opinion. I looked at those essays for part 2 and part 3. They were fantastic, but it looked as if they were written by adults. But it turned out to be her own son's essay. It's got wow. If my students like this, for sure, he will get 60 over 60. Okay. So part 3 still the same like part 2. You have to organize your essay because 4.1.5 said organize, sequence, develop ideas. So this is where paragraphing comes in, and all those cohesion dividers come in. Okay. Example of part 3. In your penataran, you only have 3 example. Today I'll give you 4. I'll give you 4. So it says here, the first one is article. And this is the normal wording lah. And normally they will always give you a topic. Somehow I don't know, CFRD dia suka sangat like to give the topic. So it's a way of how to control the essay, not going astray too much. Okay, and then you have 3 questions. Now, be very careful in your wording. If there are questions, they should be, the syntax should be question. But if it's part of a sentence, like the other question just now, it should be read that way. Okay, so here is correct. What other types of food would you like to be served? What special facilities? And hopefully they don't overlap. So the danger, or not danger, the shortcoming of any item, once you test, you see, oh, there's overlap. There's overlap. That's not good. Hopefully, every single bullet can give our student 1 paragraph. Remember, a paragraph should have a topic sentence. So hopefully they do not overlap. Okay. And then, and then write us an article answering this question. The best article will be displayed on the school magazine. Write your article. Okay. Now, don't ask me why. I'm still confused. It will be displayed on the school magazine or in the school magazine. Displayed must be on. So this is what we call a language collocation. Will be printed in, maybe, or will be in the school magazine. Is in, but here because of the word displayed on. So nowadays, when you look at grammar, you say, okay, is this grammar or is it language collocation? All right. Next, we look at review. Okay. So this is how a review will be tested. Now you can test anything on review. You can review movies, songs, restaurant, books. So we do not know, what will come out. But what is a review? So you have to learn to give opinion. Here, when you review, the definition will say later on. If a critic talks about a movie review, they are giving their opinion. So the language that you must teach our student when they give review is giving opinion. And then here you see two bullets. Even though there are two bullets, but a lot can be said. Say what you enjoyed about the movie. It all depends on the student's what you call experience and proficiency of the language. You can talk about the score of the music, the plot, the actors, the FX. So a lot can be said. So don't think with only two bullets, nothing much can be said. Okay. Would you recommend the movie to your friend? So whenever you have a yes/no question, it must be followed by a why. You need justification, you need clarification. Okay. So the best review will be published in our newsletter. All this information will tell us something later on. So write your review. So story. Today, those who have never written stories, you will be surprised. What is a story? A story is not the same as an account of an incident. Okay, I will get to that in a while. Okay. Your teacher has asked you to write a story for a school magazine. The story must have the title, A Dream Comes True. So ingat tu ada title. Your story should include a description of the dream, how the dream is achieved. Okay, now what's our problem? Our problem is if our student misinterpret the word dream. So you can describe a nightmare, but how do you achieve a nightmare? That will be impossible. So we will come across all type of different answers, and you should know how to deal with them. So it says write your story. Okay, last kali report. So your teacher has asked you to write a report for your club's recent activity. In your report, you should include 3 bullets. The first bullet ada 2, tak apa. It's still within, it can be done in a paragraph. Okay, and hopefully they do not overlap. Itu saja. How do you know it won't overlap? You have to try it. You have to try and answer the question. Remember, word level, it must be below B2 below. It should be clear to the candidate, no ambiguity, and the subject matter is fair for all students. Kenapa hilang suara ni? Alah, mati aku. Okay. What is important for you to know is there will be 3 separate scales. Each part has his own scale, and you have to really understand the scale for each part. Even though there are 4 aspects, same aspect being assessed, however, each part has their own descriptors, and you have to bring your level down when you mark each part. Do not have one part and one mark scheme for all 3 parts. Itu salah. Okay. So I think by now, because I think you have marked some of your students' papers, we are going to mark content first, and then cognitive achievement, and then organization, and then language. Jadi sejuk bilik aku, sejuk kot. Okay. Now, again and again, we will be talking about overlapping of scale. You won't get a clear picture until you watch this. Remember, task 1 is pegged at A2 B1, meaning if the candidate comes with an A2 2 ability, he will be at the middle part, 3, 3, 3, 3, 3. But it doesn't mean he cannot get content 5. Content is slightly easier. So most students can get 5 marks for content, but if this candidate comes with for task 1 an A2 level, he will get 5, 3, 3, 3. But once we teach them, they can get 5, 5, 5, 5, 5. Dr. Dizek dia akan cakap lagi senang aja, bukan susah pun. Okay, so the higher scale for task 1, 5, 5, 5, 5, if you mark that student at that level for task 2, he or she will only get communication ability, organization language at 3, 3, 3, 3. Itu overlap there. And so on. So if our student comes with a B2 level, he will ace task 1, he will ace task 2, but for task 3, he might not get full mark. He will get 5, 3, 3, 3. So it's our job now to teach them what the examiners will be looking for. Sekarang ni mark scheme is not sulit because everybody knows since last year. But it's just that do you understand what it means? What needs to be done? Itu saja. Okay. Ada soalan? No soalan. Okay. Now look at part 1. I will be talking about scale 5. Then you know what needs to be done. What sub skills you have to teach your student. Okay. First one. Content point, I will not talk about it. I think everybody is clear. Part 1, part 2, part 3 sama je dia punya description. All content is relevant to the task. Target reader is fully informed. The problem is if we have good students who writes a lot, but then there are irrelevant parts. What will happen to his mark for content? If you look at band 3 will be given if the writer forgot one content point or he or she has included irrelevant material. So it will be 3 or maybe 4, depending, but not 5. Once you forget one content point or you have added irrelevant parts, it will not be 5. Okay. Second, communicative achievement. Okay. It says produces a text that communicates straightforward ideas. What does it mean? Straightforward ideas. It means you can answer the task normally by writing simple sentences. That's it. Not much elaboration, but enough. Okay. Using the convention of the communicative task reasonably appropriately. Okay, what does it mean by communicative task? So first, you're supposed to write an email. So when you look at the candidate's answer, do you think this is a genuine email? Does it have the form of an email? That means, first of all, the candidate must understand the genre of the writing. It's an email. Second, okay, does the candidate understand that he's supposed to write an informal email? That means he knows the formality. Is it formal or informal? And then the other stuff like, do you understand, the register to be used, the vocabulary. Register here is not basically, but words that you use for communication, it should reflect answering the task, the content. So all the words used, appropriate for an email, and then appropriate for the task which is to talk about picnic. And for this, all right. And then for organization, when we read the description of the BART scheme, there's no mention of any paragraphing. No mention. We just say uses simple connectors. What are simple connectors? Simple connectors will be conjunction, fanboys, and a limited number of question devices appropriately. All right. So what do you understand by question devices? Question devices doesn't mean it must be transition words. Question devices involve using correct punctuation. That means the student can start the sentence using a capital letter and end with a full stop, a question mark, or an exclamation mark. The candidate can write using correct or consistent tenses from the beginning until the end, because this email is asking for suggestion. Everything is in present. The candidate can use the correct pronoun. For example, throughout is I. Sometimes when it involves the two of them is we, boleh, and so on. Jadi nanti kita tengoklah what are the conscious devices, what conscious devices are. Yang paling rendah until the best. Okay. And then for language, there are two things. First, it talks about vocabulary. Second, it talks about grammatical form. Okay, I'll explain. Basic vocabulary appropriately. This question is at A2 level. So if the candidate can use A1, A2 level, is good enough. Maybe once in a while B1. But if it's still within A1, A2, this is still appropriate. We are not asking for B2 words or C words, no, nothing is zero. Second, simple grammatical form refers to your sentence structure. So remember, starting from now, you must remember there are four sentence structure. Simple, compound, which will be under simple grammatical form. Complex, compound complex will be under complex grammatical form. With a good degree of control, meaning you see it's a sentence. And then it says, while errors are noticeable, meaning can still be determined. It means to get 5 marks for language, it does not have to be an error-free essay. Even though the candidate makes subject verb agreement essay, test essay, or spelling error, but we can still understand, we can still give 5 marks for language. Okay. Any questions so far? Dengar je, bagus betul lah diorang ni. Okay, now part 2. Part 2 is slightly higher. How do we know? Uses the convention of the cognitive task to hold the target's reader's attention. How can you hold a reader's attention? The only way to do it is if you elaborate. When you elaborate, that means you're giving detail, interesting detailed explanation, example, and so on. So here, that's why you need to start teaching students, they must elaborate. Okay. And communicate straightforward ideas appropriately. Just the same. Talk about the genre. Okay, what is an essay? What do you understand by an essay? An essay must have introduction, body, and conclusion. Minimum to essay. Okay, E to essay. Minimum, you must have an introduction, a body, and a conclusion. Okay. Second, what about other things like communicative task? Okay. The formality. The formality. This is an essay. So when it's an essay, there must be some sense of formality. So email, you can use contraction. Essay, maybe not. Itu je lah kita, to be safe. When you write email, you can use contraction, everyday expression. But when you when you write an essay, hopefully we reduce the contraction. Right now, we do not know how much they will penalize on the contraction and so on. But I know it's not much. But teach them the right thing. Okay. When it comes to organization, you see for the first time, text is generally well organized and coherent. So that means paragraphic is important. Uh, you see the introduction, you see the body, maybe 2 or 3 paragraph for the body, and you see the conclusion. Within the paragraph, there should be also coherence. I'll talk about that in a while. Using a variety of crossing devices. So now you need to have transition, what else? Sequence connectors, more than just simple connector like the conjunction. Okay. And then for language, look at the description. It's getting more challenging. Uses a range of every vocabulary with occasional inappropriate. Itu the first part. And then use of less common lexis. So if this is a B1 level, B1, B2, if average B1, so if they can use B1 language most appropriate most of the time, and then try to use B2 and with some inappropriate, he's on the right track. And what do we mean by less common lexis? Try to use C1 words or C2 words. Not necessarily you must have a lot, but use. Try to show that you can use. So whether we like it or not, we have to teach our students to use better words, not dead words. Okay. Second, uses a range of simple and some grammatical form. That means most of the time the candidate will only write simple and compound sentences, but hopefully in 1 or 2 paragraphs we can see some complex grammatical form. Even you see 2, good enough. It's fit in the mark scheme well. How about routine words? Routine words means it's not less common lexis lah. So dia punya routine words will be very low level. That will be A1, A2 level routine words. So terima kasih Ena Razak. Nama pendek sangat, tak tahu siapa nama cikgu ni. Right, with a good degree of control. What does it mean? That means accuracy is quite high. Accuracy is quite high. That's what it means by a good degree of control. Okay. Maybe simple sentences, no problem. Compound also no problem. Because how do you get a compound sentence? You combine 2 independent clauses ataupun 2 simple sentences to get a compound sentence. No problem. Okay. What does it say about errors? Errors do not impede communication. Okay. Cikgu, those who mark SPM, you have to unlearn and relearn. Don't think too much about the old SPM. Bila tengok ni, alamak, do not impede communication. Okay, what does it mean by do not impede communication? When you read, the errors will not slow you down too much. There are errors, but it do not slow you down too much. Once you stop for quite some time, that means most likely it's going to be a multiple word error. So that does not fit in that. Understand? So if your student, siapa yang ada ganggu saya ni? If your student for the last SPM, he or she has the ability to write that meaning is never in doubt, he will do well for part 2, no problem. Okay. Ada bunyi background noise. Host tengok siapa yang buka mic, tutup mic dia. Nur Akilah siapa tu? Tutup mic. Host saja boleh tutup mic. Okay, alright, thank you very much. Now look at part 3. Okay. Ena, you tanya apa pasal apa? Complex sentences. What do you want to ask? I see you write complex sentences. What do you want to ask? Ena Razak. Cakap. Tak nak pula. Okay, tak apa. Now, part 3. Look at the communication achievement descriptor. Uses the convention of the communicative task effectively. Tadi tasknya effective to hold the target's reader's attention. Lebih kurang sama je macam part 2. But dia tambah dia, and communicate with ease, fulfilling all community purposes. So here you see better flow of writing, a better usage of supporting details. The elaboration is good.
Assalamualaikum.
Waalaikumsalam.
Okay, sorry, just now about complex sentences. Do we look for complex sentences as well
Okay.
in the essay writing?
Yes.
Besides simple sentences compound?
Tengok dia punya descriptor. You are talking about part 2 or part 3?
Part 3.
Part 2 tadi dia pun ada. Part 2 says some complex grammatical form. Mesti dah ada dah. You tak ada complex grammatical form, you will not get 5 marks for part 2 for language.
This is totally new for me because I previously marked SPM. Totally different. Okay, thank you, sir.
It's not different. Your understanding of what it means by complex grammatical form was not clear. Itu saja. Ramai orang begitu. Most teachers are like that. That's why you need me and Dr. Zuraini to help you. Okay, what does it mean by complex grammatical form? Is the ability to write complex and compound complex sentences. If you only teach your student 3 types of sentences, simple, compound, complex, you are way behind. Ketinggalan dah. Okay, so you have to understand nowadays, all books will talk about simple, compound, as simple grammatical form, complex and compound complex as complex grammatical form. Tengok dalam bimbel tu bukan kata complex sentences, dia kata complex grammatical form. Okay. Jadi kat mana saya tadi tu? Organisation. Saya dah cerita pasal cognitive achievement, same. For part 3, you will see that the candidate will write the right genre. Part 3 kita ada 4 genre. So you must know what is a story, what is an article, what is a review, what's a report. You know, what to look for in those 4 genres. Second, you still look at the formality used. You still look at the register that the candidate used. Okay, you still look at how much the candidate has hold the target attention. You can only do that if you elaborate. So budak tak elaborate will not get high marks for this part. Okay, for cognitive assessment. Now, for organization, it's slightly more than part 2. Okay, it says text is generally well organized and coherent, using a variety of crossing devices with generally good effect. So they know how to use complex structure for effect. They know how to use punctuation for effect. Punctuation for effect is you know where to put your comma at the right place. You know how to use colon, semicolon, dash, which in the old SPM pun kita minta. Jadi tengok Dr. Zuraini ingatkan you all. Expose our students to compound complex and compound complex. Semualah. Kena semua kena. Okay. Kalau dia hanya tulis simple and compound je, memang tak akan tinggi markah untuk language. Even for part 2. Okay. Part 2, part 3 mesti start ajar complex structure. Paling minimal complex structure je. Kalau compound complex susah, tak tahulah. Tapi sebenarnya once I taught them all 4 of this, kan, even the old SPM, it is so easy. It is so easy. Okay. Now, dia kata a variety of crossing devices with generally good effect. Sentences can give you effect. How? When you write short sentences all the time, it is quite monotonous. If you know how to mix around your sentences, it will give effect. Itu pasal dia ada juga tu. Yang ni tinggi sikit lah, tapi orang tak cerita pasal tu. But here at least you know how to use different type of sentences for effect. Do you know that normally short sentences will be used at the end of each paragraph because the short sentences will sum up the paragraph. Itu satu. Itu kalau sentences. If you use punctuation for effect, you see that punctuation like colon, semicolon, and even the dash, or even the comma, if you know how to use it, will give you effect in your writing. Okay. And then we'll look at language. So part 3, it says, uses a range of vocabulary, including less common lexis appropriately. So here we want to award candidate 5 for language part 3. This will be for candidate who have reached the C1 level. So to get that, they must show they are able to use less common lexis at C1 and C2 level appropriately. Okay, and then uses a range of simple and some complex grammatical form. Not only orang kata apa sikit sangat dah apa tadi nak cepat tadi kata some lebih juga sama juga some grammatical form with control and flexibility. That means if you write complex structure, you can start with independent followed by dependent. You can start with dependent and then independent, and then you can start with other type of structure. That is flexibility. You know how to write active and passive sentences. Nanti kita, when it comes to marking, kita akan stress on that lah. What to look for. Okay. Next, occasional errors and slip may be present. Okay, what is the difference between error and a slip? An error is the mistake you do all the time. Paragraph 1, you make subject verb agreement error. The same structure, second paragraph also you make the error. Third paragraph also you make the error because you do not know the structure. However, first paragraph you got it right. Second paragraph you got it wrong. Third paragraph you got it right. So most likely the second paragraph is a slip. Okay. Alright. Any question? Cikgu faham konsep what it means by communicative task. You understand what it means by hold the target list attention, fulfilling all the cognitive purposes. Itu, then you be clear with what CA is all about. You understand that for organization, we look at paragraphing for part 2 and part 3, coherence and the use of variety of cognitive devices. Itu part 2 and part 3. And then language, 2 things only. Vocab, the use of less common lexis kalau boleh, and then the grammatical form. Not only simple means writing simple and compound sentences. Complex means writing complex and compound complex sentences. Okay. Ini Dr. Zuraini punya ni kan? Ke orang Gandung dia? Saya pun tak ingat. So I mix Kelantan, Terengganu and then come up with my I think Dr. Zuraini ni you punya kan? This is yours, I think. Ke kita sama-sama pakai, tak tahu lah. Alright, so when we talk about content, it means the target reader is completely informed in that all the relevant points asked of you are in your piece of writing. So there are 3 bullets, all 3 bullet points appear in your essay. Then content is fulfilled. That means the target reader is completely informed. Tapi ada tambah sikit tu. And that there is nothing irrelevant to the points asked in the question. If you add irrelevant, you will be penalized. So you will go down 1 band, maybe 4. Okay. CA actually is a mixture of 3 things. First, we want to see whether you can use the correct type, text type, the genre. So you're supposed to write a story, we must see that it has all the elements of the story. And then the intelligence of your ideas. That's why for email, we do not really require the students to hold the reader's interest. So if they do not write the elaboration, it's still okay. We still get what the candidate is trying to say. Okay. So the intelligence of the ideas, it means you can write straightforward ideas, And if you can elaborate, that means you can hold the target reader's attention. And lastly, how clearly the ideas are explained. So actually, those who can write will benefit not only for content, they will benefit on content achievement and organization not yet, but for language. You can write good sentences, you have already got good marks for C, CA, and L. Is format taken into account for CA? Now, don't talk about format as the layout. Because I say you must, forget about SPM 2020 and below. Okay, and before that. Here we look at the form. That's why I say genre. We are not talking about the layout. So don't talk about article which ada by somebody. No. So what is an article? So nanti when we talk about the other genre, you see, right? You will see what I mean by this. So this is the language paper. Yeah. But genre is not the same as format. Format in the past we know is layout, but here genre is when you read, you know it is an article. When you read by looking at the vocabulary, you know this is a report. When you read, you know, because of the register use, it's a review. So if you read and the writer is giving you a lot of opinion about things, you say, okay, so, it's a review. Okay. Did I answer your question? 10Z. Cikgu 10. Kalau if I have not answered your question, you can, such as article or report for part 3. Yes, okay, thank you. All right, organization, actually we look at two things.
Excuse me, sir.
Yes. Who are you?
What is the difference when we
Latifah, kenapa?
must be appropriate, something like that? And then what is the difference between tone and genre?
Tone is the
Format, okay. So
email.
let's say the
You
email.
look at it, you know this is animal. Tengok sekali ada nama orang tu, hi Amy ke, and then ada by, okay, it's email.
Okay.
But when you read the tone, okay, you are writing an email. You don't write an email to your friend. I would like to invite you. Tak ada kan? Hey, let's go to a picnic. Itu formality. So
it goes the same to the style. The style, tone and style, normally come together, right?
No, that's why I say forget about SPM lah.
Okay. Okay.
Unlearn and relearn.
Okay. Okay, sir. Thank you.
Dizek, betul tak Dizek? Kan?
Betul. Betul. Don't get confused with our previous 3.19. Okay, we need to delete everything. Okay, this one is new things.
You have to unlearn and then relearn new things. Tapi itulah, it's not that easy. Easier said than done, kan? Even though I've been in the service for quite some time, marking since 1993. Some of you were still in school, but you have to unlearn and relearn new things. Okay, for organization, we are going to talk about two things only: cohesive devices and paragraphing. So the use of cohesive devices such as transition will help the reader to follow the idea of your writing, which in turn will help with the readability of your writing task. And then it must be well planned atau well organized and well paragraphed. Yang well paragraph ni banyak orang tak tahu. Dia tahu ingat well planned. Dia nampak ada introduction, ada body, ada conclusion. It's well planned. But what about well paragraph? But I have talked about well paragraph yesterday also. What did I say? A good paragraph start with a topic sentence, followed by supporting details, and will end with a concluding sentence for the paragraph. Some people do it, some don't. But at least it starts with a topic sentence, and then they are supporting details. Okay. And then when it comes to language, we look at two things. only. Less common lexis, vocab, and complex and simple grammatical form or structures. So we do that. Senang. Jadi bila you tanda nanti, content tengok content aja. Jangan tengok, oh, budak ni teruk lah. Hey, look at content first. They can get 5, even though language dia teruk. So be very careful. Alright. Now, this one I pinjam Terengganu punya. Actually, I can write there, cognitive devices, stroke, cognitive achievement, stroke, language. Sama je. What it means is, the highest score for part 1 is actually there. That's the highest writing ability that we want. However, the middle band of part 3 is the highest score for part 2. The lowest score for part 1 is actually the highest score for part 5. Itulah overlap there. This is only for for understanding purposes. And what it means by the overlapping of the 3 parts. Okay, now next, this one I borrow from Terengganu also. Bagus. Sebab kadang nak beritahu cikgu, how can a pronoun be a coercive device? Please, if you are writing about a female, kan, takkan dia punya pronoun he, him, it must be she, her, hers. So it is part of coercive device, but at the lowest level lah. And then if you use the word again and again and again in the past, our SPM kita kata limited vocabulary, kan, repetitive. Here, if you replace, then it's good. That means the reference there. First you say a car, then and the one is vehicle. So this is quite good. To replace words of the same meaning to get the reader to stay focused on the idea being discussed. But maybe after a while we go back to a car. So let's make the reader clear. Okay, Cik Anwar, students like to use plus instead of in addition. Moreover, besides that, is it permitted? How about the American English spelling of word usage? Okay, English is English. Doesn't matter whether you are from America, Canada, USA, New Zealand, it's okay. That's why the only problem is, does the word plus formal or informal? So they have to be very careful. Okay, so that is very colloquial. That's what we do not want. Maybe the word plus is acceptable in conversation between friends or certain group of people. I never use the word plus. I never use the word plus. Do you use the word plus, Mr. James? This is direct translation. So we have to teach our students, the right thing. Okay, and then don't forget connectors. Connectors include transition word, sequence connectors and so on. We'll see this coming a lot. So bila dah tahu kan, bila you know that already, you will encourage them. They will be encouraged to use transition words. Trust me, don't worry. All our template, whatever yang Dr. Zaini bagi and which I also use, okay, you will see that the first thing that we will ask them to do is to start with transition words. Okay. Next, this is what I talked about yesterday. When you want to build items, these are the 4 tools that you should have with you. Dictionary, online thesaurus, the text inspector, and hopefully Grammarly.com. Okay, now let's start with how to go about answering this question. Dizek, you will see your slide. Saya kena bagilah dia punya kredit kepada tuan dia. Okay, we already read this question, you know already. Okay, I will normally teach using this. I do not care what question you read when it comes to writing question. This works. This still works. When you read the question, remember the facts. I've been using this since 1997, and it worked for PT3, it worked for SPM, it worked for MUET. Why? first you must know the format. Itu format lama tapi sekarang kita panggil genre. Okay. Who's your audience? For part 1 is your addressee lah. What are the content points? You can still use the word content point. Okay, what are the main ideas to be included in your email? What's the task? Task means purpose of writing. So what is the purpose of writing the email? Okay, and what is subject matter or the context of the email? So when they answer, they should answer something like this. Format, email. So the genre is email. Audience, Amy. So you know Amy is a friend. So it suggests the informal tone to be used. Contents, you read the question, you say, where shall we go? What can we do? What should we bring? So those are the 3 main ideas that must be included in your email. Task to suggest. How do we know? I've took this from the relevance to the curriculum to suggest. Every writing must have a purpose. The most common purpose is to inform or to share information. Okay. And the subject matter is a picnic. Okay. Now, so ask yourself, what is an email? Okay, so upon my research, there are 3 types of email. We have informal email, semi-formal email, and formal email. So hopefully there's no formal email because our candidate, they are only 17 years old. At their level, they do not write formal email. It's just maybe what you call that, informal and maybe semi-formal email. So just have to be ready because I was told in your textbook that you use, the email was to a teacher. Am I right? Somebody told me that. I don't know which group. They say the email found in the Form 4 textbook or whatever is to a teacher. So a teacher is not really formal. It might be semi-formal if you think your teacher is as a friend. Okay. So apa itu email? A message or document sent using what system? Using computer lah, using the internet. Nowadays, we use laptops, tablet, and also our handphone. Okay, now, baik. Form 4 textbook, email for job application. Biarlah. So our papers clearly stated is not going to be email for job application. Tak apa. So just follow what the penataran says. It's going to be a friendly email, informal. Okay. Job application kesian ni budak. Okay. So before they write, that's what we are teaching them, organizing their essay, reading the question, and then planning the essay. Then they write. After that, if they have time, they edit. Okay. Planning. Ini Dr. Zuraini punya. Yay, dia kata, wow, colourful. Okay. I am sharing you this because some people like formula. Some people don't like formula. So you can use both. If you like formula, your students like formula, use this. If they don't like, they say, alamak. Betul, cikgu English tak suka formula kebanyakannya. Dia kata, apa R lah? I tahulah GR 1, 2, 3, C. Apa R? I got those kind of question from my previous group. When I presented, they understand. After a few days, they message me and say, Cikgu Noor, ini apa lah? So, you know who you are. You are English teachers. Which one suits you well? Do you want to use formula or you want to use the normal one? Terpulang pada awak. Okay. So I agree with this. First, you greet your audience or the addressee, and then you respond to the email. Kita pun dah bagi senang je. Greet. Just choose either one. Kalau budak lemah tak payah bagi banyak-banyak. Hi, hello cukup. Good enough for an email. Ini sebab Dr. Zuraini dia punya dia punya audience ramai. So dia buatlah semua. Okay, dia boleh, uncle boleh, to, hi, it's acceptable. Fine, good. And then 1, 2, 3, that will be your content points. There are 3 content points plus elaboration. Okay, if they elaborate, they can elaborate using a word, they can elaborate using a phrase, they can elaborate using sentences. If students can elaborate using sentences, normally they are they are very good and they will score for that paper. If even they elaborate using phrases, also they can score, no problem. Okay. So when you respond to the email, okay, here we give you 3 examples. Depending on your student. If they are good students, they can write on their own. If they are weak, just give them. Ambil salah satu je kata. Take just one. Which one do you prefer? I'm glad to hear from you. Thanks for writing to me. Okay. So, Mr. James, do you think your students can do this? I know who they are. Okay. And then C, the closing. Actually, it's the closing statement. And don't forget, in our marks scheme, we ask them to use closing devices or some simple conjunction. So Dr. Zuraini has prepared for you this template. This template. Okay. Now, this is, like I said, this is a general template for every student. So if your student, they are not that good for the conjunction and closing devices, you just take the most common to them, not everything. Okay, not everything. Okay, tak payahlah you nak kata subsequently. Itu budak bagus punya. Without any doubt, tak salah. In the same way, they will not be able to do. You just ambil pendek-pendek. And, but, or, firstly, lastly boleh. Next, then cukup. Enough for part 1. Enough for part 1. Okay. So that's why we don't really talk about the layout. We don't talk about the layout because lembaga prepared the layout already. What we want is the inside. So tadi siapa tanya tadi? Miss Ten kan? We talk about format, right? So this is your answer lah. Okay. Now, let's look at this particular response. If your students can write like this, for sure he will get 5, 5, 5, 5. Okay, never give me one mark. You say, 18. I do not know what you mean. But if you tell me, okay, sir, I gave him 5, 5, 5, 5, then I know what you're talking about. If you say, sir, I give him 5, 5, 5, 4, I know what you're talking about. Okay, so never give me, I give you 15. I do not understand you. So you have to use the right language when you tell us about marks for this candidate. Sir, I give him 5, 5, 5, 5. Then I know 5 for content, 5 for community achievement, 5 for organization, and 5 for language. Okay. Now, what do you notice with this example? Dr. Zuraini punya G, R, C, 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 C. Itu Dr. Zuraini punya. I took from another source, dia tulis OF, IS, T1, T2, T3 dengan CF. If you want to know, OF is opening formula. IS is introductory sentence. CF is concluding formula. Sama je. So, ladies and gentlemen, basically, your email should have an opening formula or the greeting. You will letak the greeting, the response or the introductory sentence, answer task 1, if possible elaborate, task 2, elaborate, task 3, elaborate, and a closing formula. So, which one do you prefer? Maybe you want to do both. Then you say, okay, I prefer the formula. I prefer this one. Sebab every student is different. Okay, every teacher is also different. I do not know which one you like. Okay. Any questions so far? Senang kan? Part 1 is not that difficult. How bad they are also we can still teach, insyaAllah. Okay, now let's practice. This question is taken from Terengganu. I want you to comment on the Terengganu's item. What do you think? Is it fair for everybody? Is it clear? In terms of word level, I've checked. Semua okay. Tak ada C1 or C2 words. So what do you think? Baca. What do you want to comment on this item? Yeah. Just now I said if there are 3 tasks, hopefully they are not overlapping. Satu kan, the question must be fair for 400,000 candidates throughout Malaysia. Now what can you say about this item? Kalau saya bagi ceramah dekat Cikgu Terengganu, dia mesti marah gitu. You know what? This particular question, because nobody going to answer me, you are still thinking. It's not too general. This is too restrictive. It's only meant for people in Terengganu and those who know Terengganu. It's not too general enough. It's supposed to be very wide. How many of you know the names of the beaches in Terengganu? I don't even remember. I ingat macam ada Batu Buruk adalah. Yang lagi lain apa yang ada? So if this type of question is tested, most our students will be stumped. Okay, itu satu. Jadi bila nak kata where would be the best place to go, I do not know, what to write. So then the teacher will say, sir, what if my student make up a name of a beach? Is it okay? Sebab the BM teachers, they don't allow that. They want something to be true. They want something to be true. But we are actually English teachers. If, we are not testing fact, we are testing language, to me, if they come up with the name of a beach, which might be there, kan, later on, kita mana tahu. Then it's still okay. But I heard BM is stricter lah. They are stricter in that sense. Okay? Tapi tak apa. Kita boleh buat juga. Untuk latihan kita buat. Dah baca dah kan? You have read this? Okay. So what are the facts? Okay. What will be the genre? Who will read your email? The main ideas or content points, the task, the subject matter. So you should be able to give me. Siti saya tanya. So we accept if the fact is wrong. If it is universal fact, they are making a mistake. But if it's not universal fact, why are we penalizing them for something which is not universally correct? Do you know if I say okay, ada taman, ada pantai, pantai apa nama pantai yang sedap? Pantai Pasir Dua Butir, contohlah. Kan? Maybe right now tak ada, tapi somebody, change the name. I cannot say it's wrong. Okay, Sangeeta asked regarding the number of words. Can the students write more than 80 words for this part? Yes, kan saya dah kata tadi. We do not penalize for overwriting. We do not penalize for writing less. Sorry, what happened to my... Apa yang aku buat ni? What did I do? Okay, so we do not penalize on words more than 80 or less than 80. Okay. So if you have read the question, then you see that the format is an email. The audience is Ali, who's a friend. That means the tone will be friendly, informal. The content point, where is the best place to go, where to stay, and what activities to do. Okay. Ini yang saya risau ni sebab what activities to do. So be very careful. Ask your student, please be very careful. Activities, not an activity. Tapi if we know our friends in lembaga kan dia kan, dia kata the question is plural, but well, if you don't have a lot of activity to do, what's wrong if you only want to do one activity? Kan? That's what I understand from my years with my friends lah, at the highest level. Okay, so the purpose of the email is to give suggestion, and the subject matter is a visit to not be beaches, to one of the beautiful beaches. Okay, sorry, silap. Now, so this is the template prepared by Dr. Zuraini. The label is GR123C. So you can use this for your students also. What it means, G is greet, respond, task 1 plus elaboration, task 2 plus elaboration, or content 1, sorry, Dr. Zalim bagi content, and C is conclusion, or the concluding sentence. Alright. So if you do this and you write something like this, do you think your students will get full mark? Can you get 5, 5, 5, 5 for this? What do you think? Ini bagus ni agaknya, terlalu bagus. What if there's no referring to your email? It's just that, hi Ali, I'm glad to hear from you and that you are coming to Terengganu. I suggest you go to Pantai Batu Borok Beach. I'm sure your parents will love it. The best place to stay is Hotel Primola, which is 2 kilometers from the beach. Therefore, you can walk to get there. As for the activities, you can have a picnic, play jet ski, and build sandcastle with your family. Sengaja tak ada sandcastle tu. That's why, even with errors, this candidate can get 5, 5, 5, 5. Understand? I'll bet they'll have a good time. See you soon in Kota Terengganu. Bye. Kalau tak ada see you soon pun tak apa. Bye pun boleh. Tak ada masalah. Okay. Final product. So, you see content, ada. You see cognitive achievement, he can write straightforward ideas. You know where to go, you know where to stay, you know what to do. Straightforward ideas. What about organization? You see connectors like and then what else do you see? Therefore, what else do you see? By pula, see you soon. Tapi dia, here, the and. But here, because of his ability to use some complex structure, budak-budak ni memang bagus lah. Okay. In terms of what you call that, informality, you see hi, I'm, you are, I'm, tell, by. Itu semua is good for cognitive achievement. Using the right tone, the right register, and the right genre. Okay, kalau untuk language, able to write simple grammatical form. Ini ada yang lebih lah daripada form. In terms of vocabulary, okay, no problem. You can understand everything. Okay. What if he write less than the other person? Or what if you just take out all the white one? You just say, I'm glad to hear from you. I suggest you go to Pantai Batu Beach. The best place to stay is Hotel Primola. You can have a picnic, play jet ski, and build a sandcastle. See you soon. Bye. What mark will the candidate get? So go through the mark scheme one by one. Content, apa? Cognitive achievement, what do you think? Organization, what do you think? If you follow to the letter, I think you will only be having 1 mark difference only. 1 mark difference only. Mungkin you differ with your boss or your superior in terms of organization and maybe in terms of language. Okay, right. Now, Any question? How much time do we have? Baru apa? 3:30. Ada lagi 45 minit. I have to go faster. Okay, now part 2. Part 2 is an essay. Macam mana nak buat? Sama juga. Read the question and then answer the question, answer what are the facts. The fact is format essay. Audience, schoolmate. How do you know schoolmate? Because your teacher has to ask you to write an essay. Okay, maybe not entirely your schoolmate, but the teacher will read definite, and some of schoolmate will also read. Saya silap kot. It should be the teacher and the schoolmate patutnya. So content, what to buy, reasons for buying, where to buy. So there's some sense of formality because the main person to read is the teacher. But in class, normally the teacher will ask other students to read also, kan? As part of the exercise in the classroom. Okay, no problem. Okay, task to inform and explain. This is in line with the relevance to the curriculum. Subject matter, buying an item. Buying an item. Okay. So, what is an essay? Ini definition from Cambridge Online Dictionary. An essay is a short piece of writing on a particular subject, especially one done by students as part of the work of a course. So most likely the main reader, the audience is the teacher or the lecturer. So there's some sense of formality lah. It is some sense of formality. Tak payah ni. Okay. Tengok tu. Bagi penghormatan pada orang Kelantan ni. Okay. DZ gunakan ICE123C. ICE123C. Actually, it's quite clear. I means introduction. C, content. E, elaborate. So that's why here now we really stress on elaboration because if you look at the CA markscape, it says hold reader's interest. So how can you hold reader's interest is through your elaboration. Okay. And then the last C is closing. And don't forget, you must use conjunction and some cohesive devices. Okay. So this is the template prepared by Dr. Zraini. Okay. You can use this. Okay. No problem. Alright, now, this is the example given to us last year. Look at the introduction. For part 2, that is quite long. A better introduction should be 2 or at the most 3 sentences only. And it will lead to the second paragraph. Something general about the subject matter. The subject matter is about spending money. Okay, it should be in general, but here this candidate use 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 sentences. Okay, too many. And it's not wrong, but remember we do not have the luxury of time. Okay, second, what else do we see? We see the candidate wrote in 5 paragraphs. So basically, what we wanted is for them to write about 5 paragraphs lah. Tengok nampak kan? Okay. And each paragraph should have one clear idea. Okay, so the paragraph 2 is about what to buy. Paragraph 3 is reasons for buying. Paragraph 4 is where to buy. So this candidate's essay is well organized. It's quite well paragraph actually. Okay. Lepas tu, what else? Organization, we look at conjunction, transition words. What do you see? You see words like therefore, you see words like apa lagi? And then you see for example, as for me, blah blah blah, however in a nutshell. So in terms of cohesive devices, this is not a big problem. Okay, when it comes to language, look at the vocabulary. Do you see any good vocabulary, or you see, okay, good enough? Actually, this is more than good enough. If you look at the vocabulary, these students can use the word worthy, wish list, purchase, instruments, nutshell. Those are words better than a B2. So, what about grammatical form? We see simple and some complex grammatical form. So, this candidate deserve a 5, 5, 5, 5. Okay. Cikgu jangan risau, nanti kalau kita perlukan masa latihan, you can always refer to me. Okay. This is a simpler essay, but can we give this candidate 5, 5, 5, 5? Cuba cikgu tengok. What do you think? Suddenly we have this type of candidate. Dia tak suka tulis panjang, but this is part 2. Remember, this is part 2. What do you mean in that way doesn't sound English like that translation? Which one do you think? What are you talking about? What doesn't sound English? What sounds like direct translation? Yang mana? We do not know your context. What are you talking about? Okay. So, what mark should this candidate get? Come on, teacher, start. Baca cepat-cepat. Straight 4? What do you mean straight 4? Zaidi. Yeah. Aku risau betul cikgu-cikgu ni punya apa. What do you mean by straight 4? 4. Okay, you say this candidate, content 4, communication 4, language, organization 4, language 4. Okay, fair enough. 16 marks, 4. Dr. Dunay say 5, 5, 5, 5. Okay. What about the others? What about my teachers? What do you say? Raihan, apa jawapan dari Raihan? Umairah, mak oi. 5, 5, 5, 5, 5. Okay. Ini pakai telefon yang boleh tulis 5, 5, 5 gitu tu kalau pakai Alright. Okay. Now, Zaidi, I'll show you why this is 5, 5, 5, 5, 5. Mohana. Now, what are the content points? What to buy, reason for buying, and where to buy. I like to buy a guitar. Ada. I want to buy a guitar because I love music. Even though in that same paragraph is not clear for the second reason, but if you go back to the second paragraph, you see an acoustic guitar has been in my wish list. That means he's always wanted to buy that. Okay, that's 2 reasons already. Fine. Okay, where to buy? I usually buy my instrument at the music shop called Yamaha. So, 5 marks. Target reader is fully informed. Okay, so what about communicative achievement? Has he used the right tone? Has he used the right genre? We see the introduction, we see the body, we see the conclusion. So in terms of genre, correct. Okay, no problem. What in terms of formality, it is not informal. There's some formality. It's correct. What about the register, the words used to talk about money? It's there. What about holding the reader's interest? When you can elaborate like this, okay, he not only want to buy a guitar, he was an acoustic guitar. Okay, he's been dreaming to play it, but haven't got enough money. So you see, this candidate can provide you with some interesting information. So that means he can hold your interest. So CA is also 5. Organization, I highlighted all the transition words. Therefore, as for me, but, moreover, in fact, so, in a nutshell. And then the paragraph which is there, correct use of punctuation. So this is also a 5. And then what about language? Language says are able to use everyday vocabulary with some appropriate. This is all appropriate. What about structure? What about the grammatical form? This student can write simple grammatical form and complex grammatical form. If you cannot see complex grammatical form, then you are the problem, not the student. When you say, as for me, if I have money, I would buy to buy a guitar. Isn't that a complex structure? Kan? So it doesn't say you must have many complex structures. This is good enough for the students to get a 5, 5, 5, 5. That's why teachers don't use a very high standard for a slightly lower writing task. This is part 2, pegged at B1, B2 level. B1, B2 level. Okay, all right. So basically, your essay should have opening paragraph or the introduction, task 1 plus elaboration, task 2 plus elaboration, task 3, and you should have your closing paragraph or your conclusion. Okay. Now, let's look at Terengganu paper. Si Terengganu ni dia suka banyak tempat berjalan. So dia tulis trip. Okay. One question given to me, can we do this? Part 1, travelling. Part 2, kalau boleh, janganlah. So that means they will be able to use the same argument, the same vocabulary for part 1, part 2, part 3. So it's not a good set of questions to be put together. So hopefully part 1 and part 2 and part 3 will not talk about the same thing. That is the difficulty in putting items together for writing. Okay. So if you read this, they say your class has been discussing the places to go for a picnic family trip, and your teacher has asked you to write an essay about the holiday destination that you would like to go to with your family. In your essay, you should write about where you would like to go, reasons for choosing that destination, how long you would like to stay there. Betul tak wording dia? You should write about where you would like to go. Bukannya where would you like to go. Okay, so betul lah ni. Write your essay using all the notes and giving reasons for your point of view. Write about 125 to 150 words in an appropriate style. Okay. Tak payah lah ni. Okay. So, when you read the question, you know it's an essay. At least 3 paragraphs. Introduction, body and conclusion. Your audience is the teacher, because we know an essay is normally read by the teacher because it's a class assignment, part of the course. And then the content, where to go, reasons for choosing the destination, how long to stay. And the purpose of writing is to share information. Satu. And kalau you nak letak apa tu, suggest pun boleh. But where you to go to, you're suggesting. Okay. And the subject matter is a holiday destination. Alright. Ini dah tak apa. Alright. Template ni. Okay. Saya ubah sikit je design punya. Sebab basically it's the same. Dia ada dia punya apa, ICE 1, 2, 3 C dekat tepi tu. In the middle, I talk about what I'm going to write or what will be included in the paragraph, and the C I change it to CD, and I remind myself, okay, these are the possible devices that I can use for my writing. So introduction, normally there's no transition, just a few statements that will lead you to your second paragraph. Okay, the second paragraph you can start with firstly, that's the easiest. Here, because you know where you want to go, you can start with obviously. Okay, and then you talk about where you would like to go. And then the third paragraph, you can use the easiest one is next. then you give reasons for choosing that destination. Or you can still use what part of the idea is as for the reasons, comma, that means you are going to construct a complex structure using that. And then, okay, it doesn't mean every paragraph must start with a transition. If you cannot think of anything, don't do it because it will look stupid. It will sound stupid. But if you can, go ahead. And one of the ways to start your paragraph is to ask a question. This is another transition trick. Okay, that's why if you teach your students how to write sentences, it's not enough. You must also teach them how to write questions. So question will be very useful for essay writing. So if the question how long would you like to stay? So you are actually personalizing your essay. You ask in that paragraph, how long would I stay there? Okay, given the chance, how long would I stay there? Then you answer the question. It's not wrong. Okay. And the last paragraph you can start with finally, lastly, to sum up, in conclusion, macam-macam. I hope that one day my family and I will get to go to this place. I'm sure we will enjoy ourselves during our stay there. Okay. So when you go back, please teach them there are two basic ways of writing introduction. One, using your own original interesting opening paragraph. Write about 2 or 3 sentences that hook the reader. Dr. Dizek disuruh pakai ni, hook the reader. In other words, to attract the reader. To attract the reader. But most books will use the concept hook the reader. Okay. Or second, use the modeling method. This will be only for the weak students, not for your good ones. Whereby basically you will stick to the rubric and just change and add some relevant information. Example. Okay. So it can be 2, it can be 3 sentences. Going for a holiday is one of my favorite activities. In fact, Malaysia has a lot of interesting and fascinating places to visit. So, where would be the best holiday destination for me and my family? Okay. It can be that. If you don't have the question also, it's still good enough. We know you're talking about holidaying. You know you're talking about some fascinating places to visit in Malaysia. Okay. Or you can use this that I introduced during our last SPM paper, using the modeling method. So whatever is given in the rubric, you use and just add and replace the pronoun and drop some words, add some information so that it looks like as if you are trying to write an introduction. Okay. Now, for paragraph 2, this is from our plan just now. Consider device firstly or obviously, and then you write your topic sentence. I would like to go to somewhere. Okay, the first sentence. Supporting details, 2 or 3 sentences. Okay, why? What's so special about the place? That's why we have to teach them how to ask questions. If they ask good question, they will get good elaboration. You ask one question, you get one sentence. That is a very excellent elaboration already. And then you can end up your paragraph with, you can say, to sum up, in short, in brief, it's a place to die for. I'll be very happy there. Either one. This is just example. Okay. So paragraph 3, same. You start with quasi device and then topic sentence, supporting details, 1, 2 or 3 sentences. It depends on how good your students are. And then the ending. Clearly, the place has everything to make the holiday a memorable experience or unforgettable experience. Okay. Then paragraph 5, if you do not have a quasi device, it's okay. Start with, I probably stay there for how many days, why, okay, and then the ending. naturally, I hope to create beautiful memories with my family. And then you write your last paragraph, okay? So your last paragraph normally restate or reinforce the topic, but don't use the same sentence in the first paragraph, and you should tie everything together in the last paragraph. Example, to sum up, I hope normally in the last paragraph you talk about your hopes, your wish, your dream, and then your final thoughts about the topic. To sum up, I hope that one day my family and I will get to go to this place. I'm sure we will enjoy ourselves during our stay there. If you have good students, you can ask them to write another question, which is a rhetorical question. How will you feel if your dream vacation comes true? Right now, all of us need a vacation, but what to do? Stay at home, be safe. Okay, Cikgu. For actually part 2 and most of part 3, the way of writing is the same. Is the same. If I use, I talk about part 3 for review, article and report, I will still use the same template like part 2. The only difference is you must know the genre of the 3 different ni baca nanti dah sendiri. Ni sebab nanti tak sempat. If you ask question, I answer you. What is an article? So basically, article, review and report, they are considered as descriptive essay. The way to plan is the same like part 2. No, not much different. Only the length is longer. The level of vocabulary used is much more challenging. The structure used is greater. That's all. So, what is an article? It says an article is a piece of writing on a particular subject in a newspaper or magazine or on the internet. That means the article must have normally a topic, because the topic will give you the central idea. So everything about the essay from the first paragraph until the last paragraph will be about one central idea. That's why it says a piece of writing on a particular subject. Okay. An article, minimum 3 paragraphs. Same. Introduction, body, conclusion. So, what's the purpose of people writing an article? When you write an article, normally you want to share information. Okay. If the article appear in a magazine, that means there's some formality. Don't use contraction. I read from the Cambridge, they said don't use contraction. But you can personalize your article a little bit. You can be in the article. Okay. Ini contoh yang dia bagi pada kita lah. I think you have this. This candidate wrote quite a long piece of writing. What if the candidate missed out the part by Sabrina? So we are not very concerned, but we know when we read about this, oh, okay, there's only one subject matter. From the beginning until the end, it's about the canteen. Okay, betul. So it's an article. So if you forget the name of the author, it's still okay, no problem. But this is quite long for the introduction. For even though for part 3 is quite long. Remember, we have time limit, about 40 minutes. If your student is good, don't go ahead. Don't stop them. They can write. Go ahead. So you see paragraphing, semua bagus. Ini memang lembaga bagi 5. Memang betul lah. Alamak banyaknya. Why did I show you this? Now, next, what is a review? What is a review? Okay, it says, if critics review a book, play or film, they write the opinion of it. So when you read an essay, you see opinion of the writer. So say, okay, this is a review. This is a review. If it's a report, you don't see opinion unless the person want to give suggestion. If the person asks for suggestion, then the person will suggest. But if there's no suggestion asked, the students or the candidate do not have to write any suggestion for their report. Any review. Okay. Ini yang dibagi tahun lepas, so long. This candidate wrote about 518 words. I know our students cannot do that. If they can write about 280, Alhamdulillah. 250 pun I'm very happy. This is too long. Because this student, he knows or he knew so much about the Evangel. Panjang sangat. Gila. 518. Now, what I want to show you is this. This is very foreign to all of you. Please, you trust me. Cikgu Raihan dia dah pernah tengok sebab you know what happened. You should be thankful to two schools tau. In apa ni? One of the school is Semamu lah. Semamu give me task to solve, and thank you very much to Semamu because of a program I did for them. I came up with this particular slide. I ingat ramai orang tak ada ni. Okay. Your teacher has asked you to write a story for your school magazine. The story must have the title An Unforgettable Incident. Your story should include a description of the incident, why it is unforgettable. Okay. If you think very carefully, when you write a story, where would you put the idea of it is unforgettable? In the body of the story or at the beginning or towards the end? Kan? So be very careful lah. So a story must have a title. A story must have a title. And then what is a story? Itu kita nak tahu tu. A story is a description, either true or imagined, of a connected series of events. Okay, jadi bila kita tengok story, kita akan tengok there is a beginning, and in the beginning of your story, you should introduce your character. You should show us the setting, the world your character live in, and maybe you write a little bit about your character. And if you want, you can start your story with the plot in the first paragraph. But most people do not want to do that, and that's why we read, fantasy books, whatever, or fairy tales. Once upon a time, in a kingdom long ago, there lived a king with 3 daughters. Itu saja dia kata. Bila dia nak mula story dia, one day, then you know the story start. Okay. So, this is a story. The middle part. So, if you say you are writing a story, you must have this. The beginning of the story, which is the problem, and then must be some rising action, and then you must have the climax, and then you must have the resolution. Siapa pula tu? Azri. Dan dia Azri. Okay. So what do you have in the middle of your story? Astaghfirullahaladzim. Post tutup Azri ni. So in the middle, there must be some action. If you want, you can add in dialogue, because as the writer, you are your reader's eyes, nose, ears, and other senses. So you might want to give some sensory details. You might want to include your thoughts or your feelings. Might, bukan dia must. And in a story, there must be suspense, because it will build to the climax. And then you must have the ending. This is the big finish. The ending should reveal how you overcame the problem, and all conflicts are resolved and everything goes back to normal. Okay. Right. The problem is in the past, when you write, you say narrative, walaupun kita write a story, we were not really using the correct apa kata layout atau apa the correct format or genre of a storytelling. Itu pasal kita nampak kadang-kadang budak tu tulis more of an account of an incident rather than a story. And a story doesn't have to take days, months or years to complete. A story can be done within 15 minutes, 5 minutes or even 20 minutes. So kita kena ajar orang what is a story lah. Lepas ni kita tengok what is story. Okay. So when you plan for a story, this is your plan lah, basic plan. Sama tak macam yang part 2 tadi, sama je. You ada your bahagian paragraph tu kan, apa nak tulis, in the middle the sentence or what you want to do in that paragraph, and don't forget your cohesive devices. So kalau story, we can start once upon a time, in the beginning, a long ago. Okay. So you start with a setting of place, time, and then introduce the character or characters. So when you want to start the story, you will say 1D. Okay. So then you would introduce the conflict or the problem. That this will be the beginning of the story, and then you build your action. Actually you can add more paragraph. It's not wrong. If you want to add another paragraph to make it 6 paragraphs, 7 paragraphs, it's okay. But never go beyond that, because you will lead your students to a never-ending story, and they might not have enough time to finish. When they don't have enough time to finish, they don't have time to edit. Remember our 3 steps. O, organize your writing, and then W, you write, and then you edit. So our students normally do not have time to edit because they do not know how to spend their time. Okay. And then you use finally. When you use finally, you are going to describe the climax and how the problem is finally solved. And then the conclusion. Actually, there is also cohesive device for the conclusion. I will show you later. Terlupa nak masukkan. So you describe what happened after the resolution. And this is where I remind you, don't forget to mention why it is unforgettable. It can be done in the introduction, it can be done in the conclusion. But I don't see where to put in the body. Alright. Now, how to begin your story? So if you have students who like to write stories, if they are good, they can start with any kind of opening. They can start with a dialogue. They can start with quotation. They can start with anecdote. It's up to them. But if we have average to weak students, they can always start. It all began when I first, at the beginning, or you start with the setting. It was a cold winter day. I was alone. There was no one around. I was really scared. I was terrified. Scared tu boleh lah. Terrified dah tinggi sangat. So just be clear. These are only some simple ways to start. There's no right or wrong way to start a story. Okay. When you write stories, don't forget to stories have events, and that's why you need to use time phrases. So when you write story, bahagian transition, no problem. When it comes to organization and transition, it shouldn't be a problem because you remember to use time phrases such as then, after that, meanwhile, not long afterward, as soon as, 20 minutes later, a moment later, that day, that afternoon, sometime later. So if you choose storytelling, organization shouldn't be a problem if they include time phrases. Okay. And if they also include suspense. Why? The main reason to write a story is to entertain. Okay. Or the real purpose of writing a story is to entertain the reader. And one way to entertain is to create suspense. So how do we create suspense? Budak kita tahu jeng ataupun tiba-tiba, itu saya tahu. Suddenly, but there are other words. All of a sudden, without warning, unexpectedly, out of the blue, out of nowhere. So this will be some transition words for creating suspense, and at the same time, you have used the transition or causal device. Okay. Now, if they can use direct speech, because if they use direct speech, sometimes it will make the story more interesting. More interesting. However, please remind them, if they write dialogue, make sure they don't say she said, I said, he said, I said. There are other words to say it. For example, what's the function of the dialogue? Do you like it? He asked. He reminded me. He warned me. Or how was the dialogue presented? He screamed, he yelled, he shouted, he whispered to the matter. So make sure they know how to use this. And hopefully the dialogue is relevant. It's relevant. Okay. And then ways to conclude or finish your story. So the last paragraph, you can say in the end, finally, when it was all over, after everything that happened, luckily. So in terms of organization, storytelling will not give much problem. Semua akan dapat 5 marks. Okay. All right. Now, another thing to remind students when they write stories, please do not use only one type of tense. Super simple past. Yes, when they write stories, they tend to use simple past tense. But even past tense, we have three types. Simple past, past continuous, and past perfect. So why not they mix together? Simple past plus continuous, past perfect plus simple. But if they cannot, they can have simple past, but not more than 3 times. Not more than 3 times. When you use more than 3 times, it gets monotonous. In English, there's a rule of writing, the rule of 3. Don't write more than 3 short sentences in succession. It becomes monotonous. Do not use a word more than 3 times. If you have a list, don't give more than 3. Bila 4 tu dia dah jadi something else. As if you have nothing better to write. Okay. Baik. Kita dah nak habis ni. Saya nak bagi contoh satu story. Okay. In my quest of coming up for module for writing, I came up with this method. This was taken from a writer's book on how to write. Tapi sebenarnya kalau kita tengok, sama je. It says the TAD method. TAD method. Transition, Action, Detail method. Tapi kita punya tadi transition causal device kat belakang. Tapi dia kat depan. TAD method. Transition, Action, Detail. Sama je. Contohnya dia buat gini. So if our student can give us something like this for the plan, and then when they write, they can add or change the wording, it's okay. So what I've come up with is like this. Same story. Don't forget, unforgettable incident. The plan using the TAD method. Transition, Action, Detail. Which one do you prefer? You want to use TAD or you want to put the transition at the back? Something to think about. I like this one. Transition, Action, Detail. This is more natural. Transition, Action, Detail. So if I plan something like this, okay, in my first paragraph, I say after class, I wanted to eat pizza for lunch with my friend. Okay, what other details can I add in the first paragraph? There were many customers. We had to queue. My stomach was rumbling. So the basic things I want to add in my first paragraph. Okay. Second paragraph, I want to say, okay, finally after the queuing, it was my turn to order. Early on, while I was queuing, I saw there was the last piece of pepperoni pizza, and I was excited. So when she wanted to to order, she's excited. Okay, quickly I ordered the last slice. Thank God I got it. However, it slipped out of my plate. I was embarrassed. Who wouldn't? Okay, next paragraph. Suddenly, maybe use some other transition if you want. Everybody in the cafe laughed. What happened? The server made a joke. I saw my best friend laugh too. Then I laughed with them. So this is actually part of the climax. In the end, we turned an embarrassing moment to a happy one. I would never forget this incident. I learned an interesting lesson. Yang dah tengok slide ni cuma Alif Ifwat saja in text. Yang lain semua belum tengok. This is first time for you. Dr. Dizek pun first time. Okay. So please read this and tell me whether this is a story which is a piece of writing that entertain you or not. Cikgu baca. Do you like it? Does it have all the element of a story? You have a title, okay? There's a problem, there's some drastic action, you have the climax, you have the resolution. Okay. Can our students write something like this in 5 paragraphs? And would this candidate be awarded 5, 5, 5, 5? Okay. This is not like an account of an incident. This is a story. There's a difference. Any comment? Ooh, 71 people in our... Wow, who are you? Okay, siapa-siapa nak komen, nak tanya, boleh silakan. Oh, Puan Chua, you're also here. Thank you very much. Okay, any comment? Any question? Hello? Any comment? You know, this has all the...
An unforgettable incident.
It is an unforgettable incident, yeah, because it was an embarrassing moment, but towards the end, you know, the embarrassing one become a happy one. You will never forget this, and you also learn, you know, laughter cures everything. So this can be also a story when, you know, you solve a problem, whatever. So can we award this candidate 5, 5, 5, 5? So the question says, describe the incident, and then explain or the incidents are vividly dramatized. And this is very good. You have all the element of suspense. You have the dialogue. You see the problem. You see the action. You see the climax and so on. And so yes, if you want an example of a story that happened, I think, in less than half an hour of the person's life, which is entertaining. This is a story. And that's why I worry if we still hold on to our understanding that a story is a narrative and the narrative is a story. Lain. Narrative means you narrate something, but this is a story. Okay. This is more than a narration. This is a story. Yang tu yang kita tak tahu lagi. It will only be clear next year when we go through this in the panel for marking. Okay. Dizak, any comment? Dizak lah, dah dengar ni.
No comment. But I really hope that when you are, sebab ini yang penting, the most important part is for you to build the item tu. Okay, when you are, tapi Cik Anwar kan, mesti malu juga cakap dengan principal ni debar semua. It seems
incident very vividly described. Okay, Alif. Ini yang memang dengar ni.
Right. Hello, Mr. Anwar. Okay.
Yes.
Regarding the writing, it's like maybe that there are teachers like one of my friends. Surprisingly he joined the meeting today. He's from Selangor actually. So basically he's pretty shy to ask. So he asked me to ask you whether about the length of the writing, right? If you look at the writing over here, it seems like it's not that, I would say it's not that long actually. It's just only like 5 paragraphs, if I'm not mistaken, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, yes. So just now we knew that the marks given are like 5, 5, 5, right? So somehow, yes, the questions given, we would have like 350, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, 350 for question 3, right? So is there any like specific or recommended length for the writing? It's like the student must, yeah. Is it
Excuse
like
me.
Brad
Alif, part 3, 250 saja.
250, oh sorry, 250. Okay, sorry, yeah, more than 250.
Now,
okay, so
let me show you the word count for this story. Tengok berapa dia punya word count. Sabar.
Yeah. Nanti
Like I said, we do not penalize on over length or short. So this essay is about 256 words.
Okay, so the question is, so this comes to the question. The question is there any like suggested length for the writing? Is like before this we do teach our students to write at least, you know, like certain pages of writing, so that it's easier for the students to know how long they should write. So that's the thing, because like one of my students asked me,